You all know I love cryptids and supernatural silliness, so obviously I'm a fan of Mothman. Mothman is an urban legend that haunts a town in West Virginia called Point Pleasant. He's either a man with all the powers of a moth, or a moth with all the powers of a man, such as literacy and a love for rock and roll music. So you can imagine how terrifying and powerful this creature can be. He sounds like a villain Batman would square off against, but I can assure you this is no comic book fairy tale. Mothman is very real, and he's not to be taken lightly. There's a whole video that presents the story of Mothman beautifully. It comes from Storied, and I'd like to share that with you so that way you too can sleep in fear knowing that Mothman is out there terrorizing this peaceful planet. Right now, that no good son of a bitch is flying around in West Virginia, reading our books, chasing our cars, and scaring our children. And you know what? I think I've had just about enough of it. Who do you think is more badass, Mothman or Goatman? I don't really remember Mothman super well off the top of my head.
It did have the biggest red eyes.
There's a 6-foot bird and massive wings.
And I asked her how
Where does
big the
Mothman live
wingspan
again?
was. She said about 10 to 12 feet.
Is Point
Arkansas or
Pleasant
something?
haunted? I'm
Oh,
here in
West
Point
Virginia.
Pleasant, West Virginia, the little Appalachian town with a big monster history.
Man, this place looks like straight out of the 1940s. That's some old-style American living. Only one big corporation there with McDonald's. Everything else is like a church or a... I don't know, like a cigar factory. Jesus Christ. Maybe Mothman really does live here. He's just a local.
There's even a Mothman statue in the middle of downtown.
Oh, that's super cool.
It speaks to the idea that this really is modern folklore, better known as the TNT area.
That's pretty cool. So Mothman is attracted to munitions. He's coming for
On
our
November
guns.
15th, 1966,
So he's against the Second Amendment then, huh?
Young married couples,
Well, then he's against our whole
Roger
nation.
and Linda Scarberry and
Let's
Steve
unite,
and Mary
West Virginia.
Millett were
We'll take
driving
down
around
Mothman.
the TNT area. But shortly after, while traveling along Route 62, they spotted it again.
Oh God, he's coming
This
in hot.
time, it followed them. The car reached speeds
It's West
as
Virginia.
fast
Surely
as
one of them could
100
lean out the
miles
window
an
and start
hour.
shooting.
Through their archive, there's a lot of stuff here.
Well,
that I'm
Mothman's already
super
burned the
excited to
files, I'm
explore.
sure.
Scarsbury eyewitness sketch of Mothman, verified by others. One of the original.
That son of a bitch. I've seen this guy before. Okay. So it's a Digimon we're dealing with, eh? West Virginia's got a bigger problem than I thought. Miss McDaniel from the other end of the room held up the phone. I could distinctly hear the sounds of loud pings and clicks. They continued for 5 minutes, then the phone was dead. Are you telling me Mothman prank called you?
This was a top secret
He can use a
government
phone?
facility. They made all these
Yeah.
explosives for the atomic bomb.
If you can
They
use a
employed
phone, you
all
can
the
use a
people from the
drone
town.
too.
You would come to work
West
here,
Virginia's got to be careful of
onto
any
a
predator
bus that
missiles
all the
now.
windows were black. You never know out here.
Over the following 3 days,
You could
after
try to
the
get to some of
November
these
15th
areas with
sighting,
fake ghosts.
At least
That'd be
8
kind
more
of cool.
people reported similar.
And then it jumped on the hood
Whoa.
and just sat there and just squatted kind of and looked at us.
What
But
the
it did
fuck is he
have
doing?
The biggest red eyes, and it run right past the car, and it jumped up in the air and just opened
What
up
a little
the biggest
goofball.
pretty set of bird wings, because you could see the feathers in it and everything. Just opened them up and just
could be an
went off
angel.
in the night like that.
Over 100 eyewitnesses reported accounts of the Mothman in this area. Almost all agreed on the same point.
Sounds like
the
mass
monster
hysteria to
was as
me.
large or as the sheer number of sightings might be an example of the psychological and social
Hey, that's what I said.
phenomenon known as mass hysteria.
Hey, fuck yeah,
The
I said
textbook
that.
definition of mass hysteria
I called it.
says it is a form of mass contagion. The size of a small town like Point Pleasant offered a unique social environment. Residents
Yeah,
either
'cause
had
it's
a
disconnected
Mothman
from the
story
rest of the world's
themselves
technology,
or knew
it seems.
someone who did, which allowed the story
Bro,
to
if a
circulate
5G
in a
wave got in
relatively
here, the
close
whole
inner
town would
network
explode.
That could bolster the belief. It was proposed early on that the Mothman was actually a sandhill crane.
No way.
West
What?
Virginia-
How dumb do you think the people of West Virginia are? A sandhill crane? We get those here. They don't look like a Mothman, and they're not that tall. I mean, I guess they could be like actual inbred idiots, I suppose, I guess, but I don't think anyone would confuse a sandhill crane for anything more than a medium bird.
Dr. Robert Smith of the West Virginia University Biology Department said the description fits that of a sandhill crane.
He needs to be
Sandhill cranes
fired.
have an average wingspan of around 6.5 feet and are about 3 to 4 feet tall. They also happen to have red patches around their eyes.
But Dr. Z, you may be wondering,
They
do
don't look
sandhill
anything
cranes
like a
ever make it to
man.
West Virginia? The answer is
Even when they're
yes,
flying
because
or
I am
anything.
a crazy bird.
One about a local
Maybe Mothman
teenage
really
prankster
does
who
exist
found
and he's
it
just
fun
keeping
to
that
jump
whole
out at
town
cars driving
actual
at night in the
brain
TNT
dead.
area while wearing.
I go over to see what's going on. I have to come back. I said,
How many people live in
"Probably
Point
gotta put a suit
Pleasant?
and
I have
tie
to look that up. What is the Point Pleasant population? It's got to be like 80 people. West Virginia, I guess. 4,000. That's so much more believable. That makes a lot more sense. 100%. Okay, yeah. That sounds about right.
Guardian angel to ultra terrestrial, scary monster to cute cryptid, and everything in between.
And still, he
Interestingly,
protects
no
us.
witness has ever reported this
He's not the
creature harming
hero
human.
we deserve.
Maybe he really
but he's
is
the
just
hero
your
we
friendly
need right now.
neighborhood Mothman.
Mothman's about number 5 on the
What a
list
great
of things
video.
I don't want to run into.
I had
out
never
here.
actually seen Monstrum before.
Snakes.
That was a really good
I do
summation
not
of the
like
Mothman
snakes.
legend, which I didn't really remember super well. Good shit, story. That was really good. I came to the conclusion that Mothman is better than Goatman. You only say that because the presentation around Mothman was better than Goatman. Goatman doesn't have that kind of reputation yet, because he's just a jubilant old forest creature who sometimes people fall off a bridge around him. Also, it looks like Goatman's kind of getting like a stranglehold on kids' content here. Fun and Crazy Kids, 13 hours ago, a little Goatman hunt. And then 6.2 million views on this one. See, Goatman is what the kids need these days. Mothman, that's old-timey shit. That's your old granddaddy's boogeyman. Goatman keeps us awake now. I don't like anyone that has a stupid name like the Snallygaster and shit like that. I like the simple ones. Mothman, Goatman, Hairy Hands. It tells you instantly what you're dealing with. It's extremely descriptive. You immediately can picture exactly what that thing is. And I like that. Hairy Hands is really interesting, though. And interesting is probably the wrong word. That's awfully generous. It's a legend that started on a single road in the middle of bumblefuck nowhere. I forgot. Probably West Virginia. God only knows. But on a road, it is said that drivers who are driving late at night sometimes may be visited by a pair of floating hands that happen to be hairy. And what they've been known to do is jerk the steering wheel away from the driver and cause them to veer off the road into a nearby ditch. And that's all Hairy Hands, baby. He doesn't discriminate. He'll throw that wheel to the side no matter who's driving it. A bus full of kids, doesn't matter. Hairy Hands is striking if you're caught on his road at the wrong time of night. On August 26th, 1921, an army captain reported that a pair of invisible hands had taken a hold of him and forced his motorcycle off the road. After which the story got picked up by a newspaper in London and the story became nationwide. If the hands were invisible, how did he see them? That goes against everything Hairy Hands stands for. He couldn't see the hands, only the hair. True, that's probably what it was. Now I won't be able to sleep. Yeah, you bet your ass you won't. Hairy Hands may have been confined to one rogue street in Dartmoor, but who's to say he hasn't broke free from his damnation? That little tingle you get on your neck in the middle of the night? The sheets shuffle around without you influencing them? Who's to say it's not Hairy Hands paying you a little visit?